Valley Guidance Teachers out on a Saturday.
Yes.
My sub hashtag for this is hashtag Saturday Teachers.
Nice, I like it. Yeah.
Saturday teachers are the people who really go the extra mile and care about their career and their profession, and it transcends their school or their district because they're a true professional at all levels. So thank you, Saturday teachers, for coming out.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I think we're by the fire.
It's cozy up there.
It's cozy. I would love to hear a story. Can we have some story time?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it, Tara.
I happen to have brought one.
Excellent.
I'll let her go first.
You take it the back seat. All right. You ready for some story time?
Yeah.
Let's do it. We're going to read a story. This story is based off of a true story from my dad who raised me. He's not my biological father, but he raised me from the time I was 18 months old. And this is one of my favorite lessons he taught me. And if he were alive today, he'd be super excited that I'm still sharing this message out with other educators and friends today. So Olivia's dad had trained her well. She had become quite the confident swimmer in the shallow end of the pool, that is. She longed to join the jumpers. Some dove like dolphins, and then there were gymnast jumpers, the flippers. Others ran and jumped without thinking twice about technique or form. But Olivia's favorite jumpers of all times were the cannonballers. Sometimes their splashes reached all the way to the shallow end. Those jumpers make waves. I want to make waves like that one day, she thought. Olivia, when are you going to jump, Dad asked. She looked up at him and whispered, I'm too scared, Dad. I can't touch the bottom if I need to come up for air. You don't need to touch the bottom. You can swim, Dad said. Take my hand. I'll go with you. Today is your day to cannonball in. Her dad went first, and Olivia focused on his every move. Climb the ladder with purpose. Then run, jump, grab both legs, and make your splashes. And he did. Dad made cannonballing in look so simple. The massive waves he made soaked the lifeguards every single time. It's my turn, Olivia thought, heart pounding. She climbed the ladder with purpose, sort of. From the top step, she could see the entire pool stretching deep and wide beneath her. Without hesitation, down the ladder she descended. As her feet met the steamy hot concrete, her head hung in shame. Olivia never looked up as she walked past the downers, who sat on the side of the pool. But she couldn't ignore their words. What a whip, one cried out. Chicken, said another, adding a cluck. Her dad met her before she made it to the shallow end of the pool. Olivia, you want to jump in, right? He asked tenderly. Yes, Dad, I do. I'm sorry I let you down. I really want to cannonball in deep down I do. Then it's your time. Go, make your splash. After waiting for what seemed like an eternity for her turn, Olivia climbed the ladder with purpose, for real this time, and refused to listen to the calls of chicken that came from children behind her in line. Once she reached the board, she made a running start and never looked back. Olivia sprung from the board, grabbed both knees, and pulled them close to her chest, just as she had seen performed so many times. This is it. I'm going to make waves, she thought, as she flew through the air. Crash! Splash! Then down, down she sank. She stretched out her feet to touch the bottom, but felt nothing but water beneath her. At that moment, she could feel her pulse in her temples from the water pressure, and she almost panicked. But in her mind, she heard her dad's words. You know how to swim. You know how to swim. And at that thought, she looked up and focused on the sunlight beaming through the water and swam, just as she had done time and time at the shallow end. With each stroke, she pushed doubt behind her. She pushed fear behind her. She pushed I can't behind her. And she pushed what if my splash wasn't good enough behind her. And she swam. With shortness of breath, Olivia climbed out of the pool her jump, she smiled and thought, I did that. Olivia's smile quickly faded. Give you a little more. This time, as she walked past Dabblers, she held her head high, feeling proud. She nodded and smiled and then returned one snark. Is that all you have, Twiggy? What kind of splash is that? Asked another. When you hit the water, you got a wedgie. We saw your behind from here. Olivia's smile quickly faded. Each insult felt like an arrow ablaze, piercing her mind and heart. And her courage had been cinched. Rather than getting back in line for another jump, she made her way to the shallow end, her comfort zone. Where are you going, Dad asked, stopping Olivia in her tracks. Did you hear them, Dad? My splash was small and they saw my fall. Listen to me, he said adamantly. The dabblers are not jumping. They have dry hair, they're not even wet, and their opinion of jumpers does not matter. Besides, what do they know about jumping if they're not in the water, Olivia? You cannonballed in. You pushed fear and doubt behind you. You swam. You did that, Olivia. You were not born to sit on the sidelines and watch others make a splash. You were born to jump. Olivia's courage began to swell up inside as her father spoke. And she gave him a squeezy hug and said, thanks, Dad. As she headed back to the diving board, a couple of kids swam to the edge of the pool and called up to her, hey, that was the best cannonball ever. We saw it from here, the girl said. Olivia couldn't believe her ears and thought, Miracle's the best cannonball ever? For real? I wish I could jump like that, but I'm too scared. I can't touch the bottom over there, chimed the little boy. But you can both swim, Olivia asked. Like fish in the sea, the little girl replied. Olivia grinned and said, take my hand, I'll go with you. Today is the day. Let's cannonball in. And as Olivia's dad watched his daughter lead the kids hand in hand toward the diving board, he beamed from within and whispered proudly, now that is what you were born to do. So I just feel like Cannonball In is just a great message for a conference like this where we are about to learn a ton of new things at this Tech Rodeo conference. And you are about to cannonball in and try some new things, hopefully when you go back to your classrooms, to your schools, to your districts. And I don't know if you guys have dabblers in California, but we have them in Kansas. And so there's always going to be those people that aren't jumping, they're not wet, and yet they're judging all the people that are innovating and trying new things in their classroom, right? Well, there are times where we just have to look to the innovators. We have to look to the connected educators on Twitter. You want to be a better cannonballer, you go ask the cannonballers, how are you doing that, right? So I feel like Cannonball In is just a great message for pushing that self-doubt behind you and not listening to the dabblers, paying attention to where you get your feedback, and just cannonballing in and doing something new, not just for you personally and professionally, but for your students and encouraging them to do the same. So thanks for letting me share my story.
Thank you, Tara. You know, and Adam, can you get the Twitter up? You mentioned, you know, when we go back to our sites and we try some of these things, there may be those that are criticizing us, right? And then are saying, I'm not quite sure what you're doing. Why would you go to a conference on a Saturday on a 3-day weekend, right? And so you mentioned about having a PLN and I want to ask John, because I actually met John. I found out about John on Twitter before anything else. And I didn't even really know what Twitter was a few years ago, and I dabbled for a bit. What's this Twitter thing? Those of you that know me now might be like, are you kidding me? You like have a Twitter chat and stuff. But I did, and so I literally Googled Twitter education, what do I do? And I found these chats. And so I was on a chat, and I was interacting with John, having some conversations, and then here I am, probably 3 followers or something at the time, and I look at his profile, and it's oh, he's like a big deal. This dude, is Apple Distinguished Educator, Google Certified Teacher, he's in charge of this large organization. Oh my goodness! And he reached out to me, and it really helped me when I didn't really have people at my school site that could started with that?
I would say the thing that I see over and over again, because I get to visit a lot of schools. I've been lucky to work in 2 county offices and 4 districts. And you guys tell me if I'm wrong. Every school I've ever visited has one really awesome teacher doing crazy good stuff. And then there's a whole bunch of other teachers that kind of look down their nose at them. Is that right? So like, you've got that 1 or 2 or 3 teachers really doing something cool, but when they're eating lunch, the rest of the crowd is kind of like the kids at the pool going, I don't know why that's so good. Why is Flipgrid so good? And I think it's super important to understand that we need to be together. So if you guys have heard of the Q Rockstar thing, that was kind of my cannonball in. The whole Q Rockstar thing, I'll tell a short story, started because I wanted to make $500 for my classroom and I needed an excuse to have a conference. That's the truth. I called Q and I was like, hey, if I did this thing, if I do all the work, if I take the tickets and barbecue the food and do the keynotes and run the sked, could I run it through Q? And they were like, yeah, that sounds great. And that was how we did the first Rockstar Camp, which is amazingly a lot like cannonballing, right?
It's a huge cannonball.
And then so I can't tell you guys how cool it is that 3, 4, 5 years later, Catherine's like, I'm going to do a rodeo-based conference. And she went for it, right? And the first year was super scary, but now it's like, yeah, this is what we do.
And honestly, even this was a little scary. Like, Tara's like, so what's this like Fireside Chat gonna be? And I said, I don't know. I just thought it'd be cool to like talk to you guys and let people ask questions because I really want you to feel like you are a part of this as well. But it's something that we've never done before.
Right.
And so it kind of was, it's a little bit of cannonballing for me as well. And I was a little nervous, I'll be completely honest. But but back to the question about the PLN, like how is that?
I'm only about halfway through. By the way, I'm going to be requesting the fireplace at all keynotes now. So there was this progression from, hey, I want to do a thing, and I want it to be different, and so we did some things that were different, right? And we took a chance, and most of them worked, some of them have gone by the wayside, but part of the original goal there, and I think this will really answer your question, Catherine, is, and back to what I said, is there's all these teachers that are left out, looked down upon, frowned upon by admins in some cases for doing stuff that is really working. And part of the whole Rockstar thing was, how can we build a network of that? To give you guys a perspective, there's about 10,000 schools in California. If we can connect the one crazy teacher at each school, that's 10,000 teachers saying, you know what, you are doing the right thing. That is cool. So that was part of the idea of building that Rockstar network, which has moved on to bigger and better things. But I think that it's also what I've learned is super critical is when I went from, how many people know where Course Gold is? Okay, so that's country, right? We got a rodeo in Course Gold. And I thought I was doing cool stuff, but when I started getting on Twitter, I was like, oh, I work really hard, my stuff's pretty cool, but there's other cool stuff. And I went to work for President County office, and I was like, whoa, there's a lot of cool stuff. And so I went from being focused on what's going on in eastern Madera County to Region 7, which is Mariposa to Larry. And then from being in that group, I started looking at what's going on nationally. I was like, oh my gosh, what I thought was good is not the end of the rainbow. And so I'll just wrap this segment up with this is, if you thought all the food that's good is in California, because we have a lot of good food in California, and then you go to Texas, you're like, what's Frito pie? Right? And so I could be a hard-working cook in California, but does that mean I know all foods? And then if I go on a barbecue tour in South Carolina, I'm like, what's this mustard sauce business? So I would use that as an analogy for your career. That's the key is you want to have 3 or 4 friends outside of your county, outside of your state, that are all doing the same kind of work as you, because your career, your cookbook is a lot richer and a lot fuller. And most people that are on Twitter love oversharing, right? They're like, hey, can I have one of your Google Slides? Here's my whole drive. Here's everything. And so I love oversharers, and then, so to sew that all together, making a couple friends on social media, trying something new, finding the other teachers that think like you, that don't say, you know, maybe we should do that in the fall. I mean, how many people have heard that? I'm going to try that in the fall. That's teacher code for I ain't doing it. If you want to do it, when's a good time to do it?
Now.
Right now. Because you'll be good in the fall. instead of, no, I'm going to wait until the fall, because that is so teacher code for we're not doing it.
Absolutely, thank you.
So, for Peel Lynn, so I've only been on Twitter since August or June of 2016. So it's not that long. Well, actually, I had a Twitter and I hacked into it, but I saw George Curro, so you guys' first keynote here. I saw him in 2016, in summer of 2016, he came to Kansas. And he basically kind of chastised us, like, you're not on Twitter, shame on you. And I was like, oh, I should probably get on it, because he was like walking around the room during this workshop. So I was trying to frantically get on, and apparently I had an account hacked into it. And he said, you, I'm just going to pull up your account. It was me. I was like, oh my God. So anyways, pulled up this account, and I had no followers. He followed me, so I'd have one. And then I just learned to start sharing, like John was saying, to start sharing the things that you're doing inside your district. And that, 2 months later, was when I was trying to think book snaps. You'll hear about it in a session later. And I was like, oh, I should share it out to my newfound Twitter, you know, my one follower. And I followed George back, and I also followed Adam Levine, so I had like nobody really on Twitter, right? I didn't even know what to do with it. I don't know why I follow Adam. I still follow.
Hashtag MathBox20.
And way fine. So anyways, send out this book snap. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just reading this book by Dave Burgess, who I had no idea who he was. And yeah, it was crazy. It's my book snap. Like, long story short, he sees it, loves it, and amplifies this idea of book snaps that later becomes a movement and now like a strategy used by people literally in 17 countries in 25 different languages. It's crazy how it all kind of snowballs. But it starts with people like John and people like Dave that amplify these messages. And now I get to pay it forward. I get to do that for people all the time that are sharing their cool ideas and being able to share those out with my big audiences that other people can see them and try them across the world. So don't be shy if you have an idea that you're doing in your classroom and you think it's kind of cool. Just put it out there, because what happens is, like you said, oversharing. We all like, oh, this may be the going thing in California, but in Kansas, we never heard of it. So now we're trying it on all of our districts, and kids are getting to use these strategies to really amplify their learning. So I would say, if you're not on Twitter, I'd be like George. You should be, because you can learn from a lot of people. You find out you're not an alien. There's a lot of people out there trying things. And it's just so much fun. I mean, literally, y'all, this is a short story, but I joined in August 2016. We're now in 2020. Since then, I met my publisher with my very first book snap. That's interesting. He later loved my writing, started ghostwriting for him. Then I became an employee of his. I now get to mentor all these amazing authors that we have, like, for launching their book out into the world. And I get to travel and speak to other educators and tell them a little bit about how they should become connected educators, how they need to, feed off of other people and not listen to the downloaders that might squish and paralyze their innovative ideas. So if you're not on Twitter, I really do highly suggest you get there.
I will say too, I've found that Facebook has been a great place as well. So there's a lot of education groups out there on Facebook also. So if that's your jam,
Instagram
start with that. Instagram as well is really growing. So we have Twitter going right now. That's kind of our jam. But I really found that Facebook and Instagram are great too. I do want to have a question here from Hans Tolman. Hans Tolman, an amazing educator. Woo!
I'm going to take this one first, and then I'm going to tell my Dave Burgess origin story, though.
Well, let me ask the question first. Yeah.
I'm going to do the question.
Okay. But origin story first. Got it.
So, my wife's friend bought her Teach Like a Pirate, and this is my first reaction. I don't want to read a pirate book. I don't want to hear about lusty lasses and men with long hair. And so then my wife left in the bathroom, and long story short, I ended up reading it. So I'm like, oh, this is really good. So at one point, like Tara, I just randomly tweeted Dave, I like this. And then he answered.
It's so shocking when you
and
see
I was like,
it.
what? So we had a couple of interchanges, and then we needed some PD in my county, and I do this. I know Dave Burgess. So I pinged Dave, And lo and behold, 2 months later, he's staying in my Airbnb at my house. I should have had him sign the wall. I screwed up. And so he's like doing magic tricks for my kids, and he goes, "Oh, I'm co-moderating T-Lab tonight. You want to co-mod with me?" And I'm like, "I've never co-modded a chat." He's like, "Yes, I do." Fun story, I got thrown in Twitter jail 43 minutes in, so all of a sudden my feed stops. So, but the point is then, 2 or 3 years later, I call Dave and I'm like, "I have an idea for a book," that turned into protocol. That's what you get from connecting with like-minded people, right? It doesn't always have to be dollars or publicity. It could just be sharing of ideas. So, back to Hans's question. How can one teacher be an agent of change in a large school district? I've been that, you guys. I've worked in a large district. It's near Fresno. It sounds like Smovis, but I'm not going to say the name. In Smovis, they really don't do new ideas. Can I get an amen from that? And here's the problem. Here's what big districts struggle against. When you have a superintendent and then a layer of assistant supes and directors and coordinators, they buy super expensive curriculum, $4 million. What needs to happen? It needs to get done, because if scores don't go up, that director or assistant supe is going to be back in front of the board in how many years to spend another $4 million, and the board is going to say, "Hey, didn't I just give you $4 million? Where'd that go?" So there's this pressure in large districts to do their program. What's wrong with that? They never work. Can I get an amen for that? Amen. You show me one district where they say, "We bought this box of books and our poor kids are outscoring the rich kids." That's crazy. So getting to the heart of Hans's question, this is how I've survived in larger districts. I have to have super happy kids. I have to have super happy parents. And I have to have academic growth. When I do those things, all of that stuff that I do, I classify to my principal as a supplement. Yes, I'm doing your crappy curriculum, but look at this awesome supplement. You don't want to be seen as a rebel in a large district. The district will treat you like white blood cells, and they will execute you out. Okay? So what you're going to do is aggressively supplement. You have to have a really good classroom culture. You have to be bought in with parents, and you have to have academic growth. If you drop me in any 6th grade classroom anywhere in America right now, I can get you 35 points of growth, like that. When I'm growing 35 points, what does the principal not want to touch? You don't want to touch the golden child, right? So you've got to work within that. You've got to say, "Yes, I'm doing blank, blank, purchase curriculum, blank, blank, for 7 minutes a day. But the rest of the time, where scores are going up." And over time, if you can get 2 or 3 other teachers to be supplementing with you, now your departmental scores are going up. At some point, the superintendent says, "How do we highlight this team?" Then it's on. My last piece of advice, and I got asked this at Kern Q on my first ever keynote about 8 years ago. "Well, John, my district just won't accept that." I'm going to tell you my answer. I'd quit. I'm not going to wake up in 20 years and say, "I could have been a good teacher, but they made me do the workbook." I'm not going to do that, you guys. Find yourself a small district where the district structure goes like this. Superintendent, 2 principals. That's where you can get stuff done. Go out there. Most of the ADEs, most of the MIEs, most of your Google Innovators, the vast majority of them are from smaller districts. You know why? They can do stuff. You're not going to see those people from big districts. How's that?
I will say too, like Dave talks to Teach Like a Pirate. You can do so many things with these curriculum. Like you can teach like a pirate with the curriculum. You can use edu protocols with the curriculum.
Yep.
So you can add these supplements and embed in the curriculum. You're going to see drastic change. And I think that's what we've done, like in our districts in Kansas. You know, we can't get rid of it. We can't go astray. We don't want to get fired. But add these hooks, add these edu protocols, embed them within the curriculum, and watch your scores go up, watch your students become more engaged.
Okay, so I've got Amy's question, because I want to up the tempo. One more question, right?
Let's do it.
Okay, I have a origin story. No, I'm just kidding. Amy Roselark, how do you open the eyes of your district to open their eyes for social media? The first thing is, I'm going to contradict Tara in a loving way. I would not go straight to Twitter. That freaks people out. I would go to Facebook. I would go where they live. How many of you have kids that do travel sports? All right, hashtag lost weekend. What are people doing at those travel sports events? They're scrolling through what between games? Facebook. I would say go to Facebook, because most of your admins already live there. Like, I wouldn't do a student newsletter or parent newsletter. I would, if I was an admin, I'd be dropping posts in real time on Facebook. I wouldn't spend a whole weekend making a newsletter that how many people read? 11, and they're the wrong ones for the record, right? That's the tiger moms and the parents that want to see if you screwed up reading the newsletter. Get them out on Facebook. But that is going to be a slow roll. I would encourage you guys, you can open a new tab right now. Look up Moore's Law of Diffusion, M-O-O-R-E, Moore's Law of Diffusion. In every group, you're going to have innovators on this end and laggards on that end. The worst thing you can say is we're all going to get on Twitter, because what happens is the laggards go on offense. You aren't making me do anything. I'm going to check head code. My friends at CTA, we're getting previews. Stay away from those. Find the people that want to play. Have you guys seen the cartoon Madagascar? You're the fun side. You can be on that side if you want, but over on the fun side, Tara and I are going to be at scores going up, work going down. We got friends in other states. People call us to check rodeos. But if you want to be a teacher, have a good time with that. And one person one time said, I don't know if I agree with Q Rockstar. I don't think that's good for educators. And my tweet back was, because if I called it Teach Like a School Mom, nobody would show up.
I have a question for Tara, because Tara, you talk a lot about book snaps, which have been, I book snap now when I'm reading an educational book. And so I'm wondering too, what about social media for our students? Why is that a powerful strategy to meld the two with content? And what is a way, I think with this question, what would be your message to administrators as to why it might be valuable to encourage that in classrooms?
So we first started Book Snaps in Lawrence, Kansas. One of the things that started was a hashtag for our district. That was kind of a big deal, and at first our administrators did not want to get on Twitter. I assured them that I didn't want to.
Who has time for tweeting?
I didn't want to get on either. But starting a district hashtag was very moving for our group, because they started bursting down the doors and the walls of their classrooms and being able to see what we were doing across the city. And that was really helpful. And I know Facebook has it too, but you really just can't filter by hashtag easily there like you can on Twitter. So when I showed them TweetDeck, we started running TweetDeck like in the front of our schools on their little screen, to where you could see like TweetBeam is what it's called, and you could see like all the things that were happening in our district based off of our hashtag. And so it was really, really fun for co-collaborating. So our kids, we started with Skyping kids from one side of the district to the other side. And it was interesting because later they'd be playing basketball together in their leagues in the city and stuff like that. And then we moved to Skyping like Australia and China, and then we were telling our Board of Education about this. So I honestly, Katherine, I think just starting small, and we never forced anyone to join. We just started running TweetBeam in the front of their schools, and everybody wanted their classroom to be on there because other kids were getting to be, shared out on social media. And there were some waivers that had to go past, parents and things like that. But it was so fun, and the results, I was telling Katherine this last night in our dinner date, the results drive motivation, right? As we're seeing more people putting highlighted, and their work is being highlighted, and it looks so exciting. You're like, dude, I want to do that. And then they start doing it. And I really think that it's kind of like influencing each other. You can get a few of those people that are cannonballing, and before you know it, we have everybody lined up at the diving board, and they're all ready to run and take a jump. Even the dabblers are getting soaking wet. They're like, forget it, I might as well jump in. Like, I'm getting wet anyway, so I might as well jump in. So I know that going to Facebook and Instagram are some other places to go, but I love Twitter.
Awesome. We have another question from Jennifer Scott. This is a great question that I think will be applicable to everyone. What are your favorite hooks for learning? Let's start with you, Corippo.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. John asked me a question.
Mr. John, no hook, you guys. Don't use a hook.
Can you explain expand on that.
It's contrived, and the kids know it. You know what I got taught? Read the kids a funny cartoon about nouns before you make them do the worksheet. They are aware of the game. I'm going to quote Saul Kahn now. You shouldn't need a rap song without ellipses. Ellipses themselves are interesting enough. I'm going to let that sit there for a second. I shouldn't have to gas kids up about the crappy worksheet they're about to do. The work itself should be interesting enough. Does that make sense?
So can you
That being said, the easiest hook ever is classhook.com. Have you seen this? It looks up movie clips by subject area. Class hook. If you need a hook, that works. But if you look at what we've done with Edu Protocols, the work itself is interesting enough. So if you come to my session later, when we do the Fast and Curious, part of the idea of the Fast and Curious is I'm not going to give you direct instruction. I'm just going to give you the test. And the growth that comes from giving you the test and then talking about it changes everything. When we do a cyber sandwich, I don't lecture you for 30 minutes and then give you a cyber sandwich. I pick an article about the content that's interesting enough by itself. So I'm doing one Tuesday for a Union School District. It's going to be on immigration. The article I picked said, this is the opening for the article the kids are going to read. Textbooks are often flawed in their perception of immigration in the 1850s. That's the freaking hook. The content is the hook. Because I'm not just trying to talk kids into doing a word search. Here's a cool video to get you in a good mood before we do our word search. I don't do hooks like that. That being said, to your question, Jennifer, thank you, is if I do need a hook, Classroom is great, but I'll literally just look for stuff on Facebook, movies. If I'm going to teach irony, there are 3 clips from Guardians of the Galaxy that nail that, right? So I'm looking for stuff that has authenticity to what we're going to do. I'm not going to show them a family circle cartoon or some crappy thing like that. It's going to be focusing the content. The content itself should be interesting enough. And if I need a special hook, I'm not doing that.
So I'm a little different. I'm all about Dave Burgess and Teach Like a Pirate, and I think there's 60-something hooks inside that book. So honestly, that book sits on my desk, and as a coach, as an instructional coach, and as an administrator, often refer to those hooks. But I love just the simple ones like the message board hook, and I also love just the mystery of like a box that isn't open and it's just sitting there, and I'm teaching, and they're like, no, come on, can we please open that box? There's just so many amazing hooks, and like I said earlier, everything within Teach Like a Pirate can be implemented right in the content you're already teaching. So it kind of goes along with John. Yeah, the content is interesting, but to spice it up a little bit, I'm going to have one of these hooks from Dave's book. And honestly, those hooks, if you don't have Teach Like a Pirate, you can read it, and it's so easy. You don't even have to read the front of it. Just go straight to the hooks and start looking for one that's going to help you. Because they will work, and they work in any kind of content, any subject area, and they do help your kids to get more excited about what they're learning.
Awesome. So I did want to ask a question to Tara. You talk about, actually I'm going to start with John, because Tara just spoke. I had a couple similar questions. So John,
Adam, get to work. Let's go.
That's right.
We need a new question.
He said, John, I've heard you say we teach real human children as opposed to I teach math. Can you expand on what that means?
How many people are familiar with a book called The First Day of School? It's wrong. And let me clarify this. It's probably 94 to 96% correct. There's a lot of good advice in there. But here's the problem with that book. It gives teachers, do you guys know teachers that maybe signed up to be a teacher because they like 30 people to do what they say? That's their goal, is I'm going to be in charge of people. I'm going to be like an angry cruise director. I'm going to make everybody go to breakfast at the same time. I think that book is dangerous. It took me 3 or 4 years to get it out of my head. And here's the problem. It gives you the idea that procedures are more important than human children. Dude, what we do is relationships. What we do is lead kids. The procedure can never be more important than the child. And it causes us to be callous and impersonal because the procedure is what matters. I'm going to tell you guys, I was Harry Wong's wet dream. I lined people up. Yeah, I said that. I had trained my kids to line up and turn in their homework alphabetically. I'd be like, homework, Hans, you're first, let's go. So they would line up alphabetically. I would check their homework in real time. If they hadn't finished their homework, they knew to call their parents and turn themselves in. I was a machine, you guys. I was a machine. And then one day I looked out and Megan was sitting in her desk crying. Megan had done her homework 13 weeks in a row, and she is blubbering. She is coming unglued because she forgot to do her homework. And you know what I said to myself? I created that trauma. I did. I created that trauma. I can't blame anybody else for what that kid's feeling right now. That's on me. And that was the day that I quit doing homework. And you know what happened to my scores? Nothing. They didn't go up, they didn't go down. We were just all a lot happier. Harry Wong would have been flipping out to tell him that story. And one last thing. Have you guys seen the classrooms where they have 49 rules that were made up with the kids? That is freaking black. What's another thing we shouldn't do, Hans? Oh, you shouldn't pick your nose? Rule 47, don't pick your nose. Rule 48, don't pick your friend's nose. I guarantee you none of those rules are spontaneously made up by the kids. And the problem is they're suppression rules. All the rules are suppression based. I have one rule in my class. Do you guys want to hear my one rule? I have one rule. Do the right thing at the right time. And so when I would have to redirect kids, I would thank you. When I would have to redirect kids, I would say, because I'm picking on Hans today, Hans, is that what we're supposed to be doing? And Hans might say, I'm tweeting about your keynote. And I would say, good job, man. But if Hans was doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing, Hans, don't put it out there during my keynote, I'm sharing knowledge. Then we had a civil conversation, and what was happening in Hans's head was, is this the right thing to do? You see the difference? And then the secondary rule was, if you're not sure, ask me first. Mark Lowney, is this a good time to be making nachos? Yes, it's ideal, because you're nacho guy, and it's Friday, and we're almost there. So it changes the way you interact with the kids. Their executive function is over the top. I start having kids do this. Hey, can I read under my desk? Tell me more. Well, it's quiet reading time. I would like to sit under my desk and read. Proceed. I don't need a rule for that, you guys. I don't need a rule for kids lining up. Because lining up is the right thing to do at the... Do you see the shift there? So... Man, I was all over the place.
Yeah, no, that's good. So thinking too about relationships, it's about kids and empowering them. I want to ask you, Tara, about your book is called Be Real, and Real EDU is what does that mean? What does real mean?
So real is an acronym. It's just being relatable, exposing vulnerability, approachable, and learning through life. And honestly, I just feel like that is the one thing. We're here for a tech conference, and that is the one thing that tech can help us amplify, but tech can never replace being real ourselves, and then also empowering our learners to be real, to be relatable, expose a little vulnerability, approachable, and learning through life. And that's really what I honed in my classroom, also as a leader. Just wanted those that I served to be who they were, but to empower the learners that they serve to be real as well. And I think that's really important because you can have all these rules like John was talking about, but honestly it just comes to a place where you feel like you can't do that. And I think a lot of times us, we think we need the next best thing, the next new thing. Well, being real is something we can always do. It's something that lives inside of us. It's the thing that lasts forever. I remember the teachers that made an impact on me because they cared about me, because they fed me when I was the sleepy kid that came to school that didn't have breakfast. Because I remember those things. I don't remember the new technology. I don't remember the new strategies. I don't remember all that stuff. I remember the people that were real with me and that let me be real with them. So I think being real.
Okay, here's my favorite podcast. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
My favorite podcast for class culture, it's called Bob Ross. If you're not sure what your classroom should look like, watch Bob Ross for 11 minutes. You'll be an expert. Does Bob Ross care if you can paint? Does he care if you love painting? What's most important in a Bob Ross relationship? The relationship, right? And Bob Ross isn't even that good of a painter. Do you guys know what he did before he was a painter? He was a drill sergeant in the Army. Look it up on military.com. And he said, I screamed at people, I woke up people in the morning to clean trash cans, and I said to myself, I'm not going to live like that anymore. How'd he do? Right? Bob Ross fills people's hearts up with love. If you want to see what a good classroom culture looks like, that's a winner. If you need more jokes and humor, I would check this out and Sons of Technology podcasts, because they do a great job of talking about how to get the technical pieces done with grace and elegance and humor. And the root beer episode, check this out, is a pretty good one too.
Awesome, thank you. Tara, I love one of the stories in your book that talks about how you had heard from a parent that book snaps potentially saved a life. And I would love, would you mind sharing that and talk about how did that happen, and what do you think it was that, how can we kind of emulate something similar to really support students?
Yeah, so book snaps, like I told you earlier, when they took off, it was just such a random thing. Like, I really was just trying to get the app on my kid's phone, and so I figured out a way to use it for Edge of Awesomeness. That's how it all started. And then I happened to tweet about the right person at the right time, Dave Burgess, who amplified the message. But what I didn't realize is all of the untold stories of book snaps. I didn't realize the impact that it was going to make on the learners that actually got to use this strategy. So once Dave amplified the message by having a guest blog on his blog, that's where all these people started seeing it for the first time. Remember, he has all the followers I have like too. And so they started using it, and I got this email and it said, book snap saved my son's, actually I got this email first from the teacher, from an 8th grade ELA teacher. She said, can I share your information, your email information with this parent? They want to email you about book snaps. And I was like, oh great, they're going to be all mad about Snapchat in the classroom, and I'm going to have to answer for this. And turns out, she explains to me what had happened. Well, she had the kids make book snaps and put them out on a Padlet. And so the kids were sharing all of their book snaps. And what's really great about this is you can look across your classroom and you can do a real quick check for understanding. And so this is what this teacher was doing, and she noticed this one book snap was really dark. He was using the sad emoji, the broken hearts, and all those things. And it was looking different than everybody else, but it was a novel study that they were all using. So turns out this little boy, Sam, I'm calling him Sam in my book, he comes up after class and she said, hey Sam, I just want to ask you, is everything okay? And he was like, yeah, he's an 8th grade student, only child, the perfect kid, right? The kid that's never absent and never does anything wrong. And she's like, are you sure? Because I want to show you something. She pulled up the Padlet, and it's like a poster board of all the digital book snaps. She said, look, do you see your book snap? And he started crying. And he started sharing with her that everything was actually not okay. And he had this, so in the emails telling me all this, he had this very well-laid plan to take his own life. He didn't feel like he fit in anywhere. He didn't feel like anyone would notice that he wasn't there. All these things, so he was connecting with this character in a very real way, and he was sharing it with this language that he loves, Snapchat, emojis, texting. And he really didn't think his teacher would notice. And she did, and she reached out to him. And so when the parents emailed me, they said, thank you for developing this strategy because my son loves Snapchat. He may be super shy, but he always talks through that. And I think that's how he decided to reach out, because sometimes when we speak the kids' language, we end up learning a lot more about them, and they actually end up getting more engaged with the content as well. And that's what happened for Sam. Now, he is fine now. He got the help that he needed, and I think he's on to his senior year this year. But those are the things you don't think about when you try something new. You share it out to the world, and then they start using it in their own learning setting. But when you have a great strategy, you have a great idea, you need to just put it out there, because you never know. You might be reaching kids that you never would be able to reach in any other way. And that's what his parents were saying. Like, we think he would have never reached out to us in any other way. But book snaps was an opening for him, an option for him. So, yeah, there's a lot of those kinds of stories in Be Real. There's a whole chapter of untold book snap stories. So you can check out some of those emails that I get from people all over the world, literally.
Tell Adam we need a new question.
We have about 1 minute.
1 minute.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick
But.
quick ad.
Okay.
Okay, I saw a really good set of statistics. You know, the number of days you lose in your life from the potential of a plane crash or terrorism or a car crash is like 3 days. You know, the odds of it shortening your life, it shortens you by 3 days. Poverty shortens people's lives by 5 years. How many people have students that are in poverty? So when Tara talks about saving lives, it's not always as obvious as the kid. You're talking about giving people economic status when you do a good job teaching them, okay? How many of you are 4.0s? How many were not 4.0s? And yet here we are. I love doing that with principals and superintendents. How many people were below 3.0? This is my hand being up. I'm not leading you. I was a 2.9 all the way through. Every report card I had said John fails to apply himself. How am I doing with that? What if I had teachers that actually maximized what I already had there? What if I didn't have to survive school? What if school made me better? Wow, that's crazy. So my last resource for you guys is read The End of Average by Todd Rose. Okay, the bell curve is actually straight up racism. It is straight up, the idea was to create a group of people that would be so undesirable they would not have children to preserve British whiteness. I'm not making that up. That's from the dude that invented the bell curve. So if you want to figure out the DNA of why you're in the lunchroom and your teachers say this, he's not really college material. Not my job. You know what my job is? Best year ever. College will sort him out for themselves. They're professionals. I'm going to get him to college.
And I'm a living example of that. Yeah, I raised my hand for 4.0, but it didn't come easy for me. And my parents got pregnant for me when they were really young. And they decided addictions and those kinds of things were more important. They did not finish school. So I became a statistic, just like John was talking about. Everybody knew that she's going to be like in the special classes and she's going to need a lot of support. She comes from that family. But my second grade teacher didn't see me as that. She saw me as potential, and she saw me as a little girl that wanted to learn more than life. And she tutored me every day when I got off the bus. And I learned to read that year, and I never, ever struggled in school again after second grade. And I credit that to Mrs. S. for taking the time to, one, feed me. She gave me a granola bar every morning. She gave me a hug, and granola bars and hugs, I learned to read that year. And you know what? I became a first-generation graduate of anything and continued on with that life. And so poverty didn't get the best of me. Unfortunately, my family still lives that lifestyle. But you're that teacher for so many kids. You're that teacher that sees the potential and just decides, you know what, for this baby, I'm going to do everything I can to get them to the next level. And you never know, some 40-something years later, they're probably still talking about you, telling other educators, hey, you're that teacher. Keep doing it, because I became something better. I got to follow my dreams and do things. Education was that road to success for me. And it all was because teachers and coaches along the way that kept pushing me along, kept pushing me forward, and not letting me give up on life. So thank you for being that teacher for so many kids out there.
Saving lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quick question, Tara. Did your teacher need an accelerator reader to teach you that?
She did not.
What? How is it possible?
Amazing. I seriously don't know the strategies, but it goes back to being real, right? It goes back to being real. She built a relationship with me, and she told me stuff that I didn't even understand. Like, Tara, you're not defined by your current circumstances. And I didn't know any of those words.
I don't know the word circumstances.
But all I know is you believe in me, and I'm going to do this for you, you know? And I just kept pushing myself forward. And so, and coaches and teachers all along the way, continuing to push me forward. And so be that for the kiddos out there, because like he said, poverty it's a statistic.
It's a killer. That's about it.
Yeah, it is.
It's proven
But
that.
we can break that statistic. We don't have to become a statistic. We can be different.
Can we give John, Mr. John, and
Mr.
Tara
John.
a